Welcome to the Adam Cobb Show. I have the pleasure in introducing my brother from another, Gabriel Legacy, who I can share all the things that you've done, but this show is really about who you are. And I want to get really clear on that. As friends for 20 years, I want to speak on this show today about the journey that you've been on in the last 20 years, because I don't know anybody else that's been on quite this journey who's voluntarily signed up for this kind of journey. I want to hear about it. And I think through your share, people will get a good sense of what you do, and they can follow you, can find out the work that you're doing, and they may want to join, and they may want to sign up, and they want to work with you. But more importantly, who you are, at least to me, has been someone who's just dove all the way into life, who's lived in sort of the world, but always felt really called to a deeper purpose, and sort of cracking away just like the stuff that's on the surface and getting clear to like, what's this thing telling me that's my calling, and how do I serve in the world? And just like high integrity, high eye contact, high like heart opening, and just transparent, honest conversation. That's what we've had. Right. You know, throughout 20 years of friendship. And welcome.
Thank you. I'm just so grateful and happy to be here, man. And just, yeah, I mean, like we said, I think we started this podcast about 3 hours ago.
How do we pick up from that moment?
Yeah. I'm just, I was, definitely, excited to come do this, but first and foremost, just to get to be able to sit with you and see, meet the rest of your family, and Daisy and everybody and your boys and just get to hang a little bit. We've been friends from afar. We've been long distance friends.
Yeah, primarily because you live in possibly the most incredible place in the planet, which is
Kauai. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what it's like to live in Kauai? Because not a lot of people that are listening and watching have ever lived in Kauai.
Oh, man, that's a big question. For me, I mean, it's the most beautiful, amazing place. It's the oldest of the Hawaiian Islands. And there's an energy or a mana there on the island that is just transformative, right? And I feel so grateful, and even have my little pocket in Kalaheo. I go up to this park called Kukui'olono Park every day. It's like my, I always joke, it's like my Superman's fortress of solitude. It's where I go to. It's my happy place. And then growing up, it was the most painful place. I didn't want it to be anywhere but Hawaii and Kauai. So I've I've had both sides, right? I've had the, like, I don't want to be here. I'm angry. I'm mad at the world, suicidal, part of my life. And then the part where I only viewed it as failure. I never wanted to go back to Kauai. I left angry and just like, I'm going to leave this all behind. And then coming back in my 30s and stepping into it where, I came back on my knees, like just life had lost everything, car repossessed, had gambled. I had owned a couple houses, in my 20s when I was in Vegas, and I sold them and I gambled away all the money. So when it was a blessing, right? But I think I needed to really get my, butt handed to me, if you will. And so I came back, a real humbled person. And that's really where my, we've always been on the journey, but I would say that was the real significant part of my journey was coming back to Kauai on my knees.
And you came back primarily because, why'd you go back to Kauai?
I had left. I had been, when I had met you, I was traveling and I was working for Tony Robbins. I was doing that for a couple of years, and I was on that trajectory of like, typically what people do is they go work for Tony Robbins in the role that I was doing. So Tony Robbins used to work for this man called Jim Rohn, which is, big in the personal development world. back in the day. So he did a particular role for Jim Rohn. Then he went and started his own company, right? Then I did that role for Tony, that same role that he did for Jim Rohn. And so others like me in that world would typically work for Tony for 2 to 5 years. Then they'd leave and they'd write their own books and, create their own program of sorts, which I know others from that world that have done that. And so I was kind of on that track, but I realized that, there was a lot that I was harboring deep down that I needed to do, like some healing work. I had a rough childhood for myself, right? I know a lot of people have had, their own version of that, but for me, it was really like, I really struggled growing up. Like I really struggled. And I had left and I was on more of the success for me in life at that stage was, I'll go make a bunch of money and I'll manifest and I'll have the house and I'll have the car and I'll have the beautiful woman and I'll have all of these things and then I'll be successful in life, right? And fortunately, it never quite worked out for me, right? And something would happen every time I tried to like really push into that world. I would get a blessing in the form of the company would go bankrupt, or the opportunity that was a sure thing just wouldn't work out. Like the one in a 100 chance of it not working out would be for sure it would happen, right? And I'd left Tony Robbins and I was just kind of trying to find myself because I knew that I didn't see myself on stage, and I didn't. Even though it hit a point where that was really enjoyable to be speaking on stage and, you're doing these, talks and these workshops and you're making an impact, but it just didn't feel like it was authentically me. And that's what I wanted to do. And
I do hear that, but let me just pause there for a second, because that's where we met, where you spoke at Hofstra for Cousin Steven. Shout out Cousin Steven. Yeah. And he said, you guys have to know each other. You came to my complex in New Jersey, where in the amenity space in the building, we had a movie theater. And you went into that movie theater and you said, and I'll never forget, you were like, I am going to basically do the talk I do with you and your cousin just right here in the movie theater, right? Not in front of 30 people or 100 people, just you guys. But I'm going to give it to you like I normally would. And I sat there for an hour leaning in going like, yes. And my takeaway there was, I'm so impressed because you didn't have to do that, number one. Two, back to like how I even introed you, which was like an all-in type of person. Because there, I remember you even looking at like different seats, probably like you were practicing, right? Yeah. But like you were looking at them and I'm like, this guy, he's in it. And like, that's who like I want in my life. I want people that are in it in life. And that was just I remember that being a moment in my life that I thought, no matter what I do, I always want to show up like Gabriel showing up right here, because it might not have been the exact calling that you felt on your life, but just as the saying goes, like if you're a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper, right? Whatever it is, in that moment, you were the best public speaker to two people in a movie theater, and you gave it everything. And I was like, man, I always want to be friends with you, because I always want to see what you're up to next. Yeah, which is sort of
that was purposeful though, because where that came from was I was so afraid to do that job. Like I had a phobia of public speaking. I did not want that job, right? So I was approached by the Anthony Robbins company at one of their retreats, or one of their, seminars, right? And I was approached by the vice president of the company at the time, and I just, I went up to him and just said a couple words, because we had a mutual friend that we knew, and he came and found me the next day and had offered me the opportunity to audition for that company, right? Because you have to audition for that job, and I was just so terrified of. It was my biggest fear of my entire life. Biggest by far, hands down, like throwing me in a shark tank, rather than make me go speak in front of a group, was public speaking. So the only way I could get through that, and it was really just like something in my heart saying, this is coming to your life for a reason. You don't want to do it, like at all. Like other people are fighting for that job. I was trying to run from it. I was trying to create an excuse of why not to do it. But the only way I could do it was I had to go such 100%, because if there was even like 99% of me, like a part of me, like 1% was holding back, I would have collapsed. So I just told myself, so one of the things I did was I said, I was worried that I had this fear that I was going to go do a talk somewhere, right? Because I was in my 20s, and I'd go into like a bank. I did a talk where it was Wachovia, which is and everybody, I was at a Wachovia bank. Everybody in my workshop, if you will, ran a Wachovia bank. So everybody was like the leader of a different bank of Wachovia on the East Coast. And then it's like, who am I, right? Like some punk kid coming in to tell all these like people that are like the presidents of banks, like how to live their life better or whatnot, right? So I was so worried that like somebody would ask me a question like, why should we listen to you? Like, why should we listen to you? Like, what have you done in your life, right? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm just like, these people offered me a job and I was afraid and I took it and now I'm here, right? So they, so I had this rule that something I told myself. I said, listen, ask me anything. Meaning that like I never wanted to be in a position where somebody was like, gotcha, right? So ahead of time, I told myself, no matter what anybody asks me, I'm just going to answer honestly. I'm going to be authentic because I'm just a person. And you know, obviously I got the job somehow. So there's some value there, right? And I've overcome a fear in order to do the job. And there's things I recognize I could do. And so ask me anything. And that way, and no matter what anybody asked me, I was just going to be honest, right? About failures, anything. Just you know, there's no like sacred area that I was going to be like, no, let's stay over here. Ask me anything. And the other thing was sometimes I'd go drive, and it was 6 to 8 hours a day in driving all over the East Coast, like New York and Connecticut and you know, Jersey and, you know, all the way down to, you know, Philadelphia and everywhere, right? Pennsylvania. Sometimes I would drive literally 5-6 hours to way upstate New York. And maybe there'd be like a huge group, right? And it's all awesome and it's great. And, you know, there's good energy. Sometimes I drive forever, right? And I get there to be 1 or 2 people. And I drove like 4 to 5 hours, right? Each way, right? And I just told myself, look, like I was almost like pissed off, right? But not mad at these people. I think there's so many other people that made an excuse of why they couldn't come because, they're tired, or because it is voluntary to go to these, you know, workshops, right? And I would tell people, I remember one time, the true story, I drove upstate New York, and there's 2 people there. And I mean, it was like, I was exhausted, you know, and I was like, really? 2 people? Like, this is like, you know, a 10-hour round trip today. And I said, you know what? I'm going to give these 2 people the most, like, even better that I was going to give them. Like, I'm going to give them extra time. I'm going to help them because they went out of their way and they showed up. Yeah. So if anything, even more I'm going to give them. It's not that I'm going to give them the same. I'm going to give them more just to almost like kind of like F you to the other people that didn't show up, you know, in a sense, just to be like, yeah, like you guys did the work, you showed up. Let me speak for an hour and a half, right? Let me make it customized towards you guys. And that just kind of became the thing. And, you know,
ask you 2 questions.
Yeah.
What was a question? Cause you said, I'm just going to, you know, ask me anything. What was a question back then that you got that maybe surprised you or was a hard question to ask? And then I'm curious as to, or maybe a typical question you get. And then I'm also, because I'm really curious into bouncing back and forth with you here as to like then and now, right? And we obviously have to talk about this journey here that you've been on. But I'm curious as a question that you used to get back then, and also part two, a question that you've been getting now.
So you're asking me what is a question that I was getting that I was afraid to get, or
yeah. You said ask me anything,
right?
So like, what was the question back then you got? That you
no,
like,
you know
whoa.
what? These were just fears in my mind.
Okay,
I wasn't even getting like all the scenarios of what people could possibly ask me and whatnot. Those things never really happened. It was just like those were just my own fears, right? And I think the biggest fear was at the time was like, how successful are you? Right? Because I was kind of like going into these companies, teaching them how to be successful. But I was like, well, what if somebody asked me like, are you a millionaire? Sure. Are you like
all these bankers?
Right.
It could be like
like
money you make a year?
Like how much was your suit, buddy? Right.
Yeah.
So I, but I think we spoke about this in your dojo, right, earlier, is that I only, if I don't have something, I can't give it to you, right? Like I can hand you this mic because I have it, like I'm holding it, right? So within that world, right, I didn't try to be all things to all people. Yeah. I was like I'm somebody who had a stutter as a child, had to go to a speech therapist when I was in second grade, was absolutely couldn't even take a dessert order or speak to 6 people at once as a 21-year-old man when I lived in Las Vegas, because I was too afraid to ask 6 people what they wanted for dessert. And what was the fear at that time? What if they asked me where our vanilla's from? Because it was a real fancy restaurant at the Bellagio Hotel. And I had this fear like that I wouldn't know the answer, and then they would make fun of me and say like, oh, you shouldn't be working here, right? You shouldn't be working, like you don't know what you're talking about. This is a fancy restaurant. Because I don't know, I'm from Kauai, right? So it's like, I'm not used to being in some, fine Italian restaurant, right? And so those were the types of things that I was dealing with, right, at the time. But what do you tell
that person that's listening right now that's like, but I do that. I go, that person might go into, speaking to people that they feel like they're not quite at their level. Maybe they're not as prepared as they want to be.
Well, I'll bring it back to what I was saying to bring it full circle, is that what I did was I said, look, these are the things that I got the job, and there's things I had accomplished, right? So I just focused on like, what are my strengths, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody has their own fears, right? And I have, maybe for other people, they're like, they would speak in front of a group, no problem, but they're afraid to sing, or they're afraid to start their own business, or they're afraid to have a conversation with somebody and be have their heart open and share whatever. Everybody has their own dragons, right, and their own things that they gotta face, right? So I just focused on, okay, like this is what I have done, and this is who I am, and I'm not, all these other things. Like, no, I'm just but I've overcome, like, to go from my biggest fear my entire life is public speaking, and I can't even take a dessert order, to the biggest talk I did was a college graduation. It was 1,500 people, and I was the keynote speaker, and I spoke for a half an hour, and I couldn't even take a dessert order for 6 people, right? So just of what it takes to do that, and for me to have the courage to do that, you can use that as an example, right? Because there's something that you're afraid of too, right? So I spoke from that place, and that's why I was able to really, I would say, like make an impact, in that job, and it was purposeful. Like I needed that, like everything. I have a teacher now, a Hawaiian teacher. She's a kumu, and I spend a lot of time with her. And she tells me, Gabriel, everything in life is divine timing. Everything, right? Like we often think that in life that there's like these important moments that are like guided, right? And then there's the other things that are just kind of like filler moments. And what I've discovered, in my own path is it's not true, is that every moment is divinely guided, right? And it's just, maybe you might not understand what the purpose of that interaction was, but everything has a ripple effect, everything. So, it's been a huge learning lesson for me, in that regard, as far as, stepping into the fear and regardless of what, because there's moments that we all expand and we grow, and then there's a new edge. And then we think, oh man, I'm really comfortable in this new area that used to be hard.
Yeah.
But now we're being asked to kind of step up in a new way, right? And we're being asked to serve, maybe our families, like in your case, or our communities, or our clients, or just maybe even a friend that's struggling, right? And I find that the stronger we become, the more that's given to us, because now you can handle it, right?
Let me tell you about a fear of mine. It's snakes.
Mm-hmm.
You sent me a photo of some really big snakes that were really colorful, which usually means, stay away.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, which I already know, but tell the listener where you're coming from most recently?
Yeah.
So speed up to the present day.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was most recently down in the Peruvian Amazon outside of Pucallpa, at a healing center, a Shipibo. It's a tribal people of the Peruvian Amazon that I've been working with, and I've been in an apprenticeship studying healing work in Curanismo, which is working with medicinal plants. So I was down there for 3 months going through, it's called a master plant dieta. We were doing ayahuasca ceremonies at night, 5 nights a week. And then I was drinking 3 trees, for a few months.
What does that mean, drinking 3 trees?
They make if you think of Chinese herbal medicine, and they have like herbs and different things they give you. Yeah. The jungle has their version of that, where they have particular plants they give you, and you eat a really limited diet. No salt, no sugar, no oil, no red meat, no pork, no dairy, no fermented foods. Just a very bland, simple diet.
Sounded like most things.
Yeah.
So what's on the menu then?
So I was eating a grilled fish called a boca chico that has about 1 million bones in it, and you have to literally just pick out. It's like they're like hairs. You have to just pull like little morsels. It takes you an hour to eat this fish. And then I'd have some boiled carrots and some boiled potatoes. And for breakfast, a couple boiled eggs, a couple potatoes.
I wish I offered you something other than carrots in the car on the way here.
Right.
Because, that you've been having too many of those.
But
I didn't know that.
It's the purpose. The purpose is you're purifying. Yeah. Right. You're purifying. It's like doing a water fast. Yeah. But with food, right?
But you've now been in this training, not just for 3 months, but this has been like 5 years or so. It's been a lot of training.
It's been I started 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I went all in with it 8 years ago.
Okay. And what does all in mean?
All in means that I quit my job.
Okay.
I had simultaneously gotten a ticket from my sister to anywhere in the world. She goes, I want to give you a gift. You can have a ticket to anywhere in the world, but the rules are you have to go to another country and you have to go by yourself.
Well, that's a good gift.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I had never really traveled so much, and adventured like she had. So I said, well, I had just gotten involved with ayahuasca and things for my own healing, and just kind of like started down that road. And I recognized real early on that for me personally, because I'd really struggled growing up with a lot of depression and just like lifelong depression, really struggled. That had helped me in ways that nothing else ever had. But I recognized that there was a deeper level of things that needed to be handled, that it was going to take everything from me. So I quit my job and I went down to Peru, but I decided in a ceremony before I went down to Peru that I just said, this is what I'm doing. I didn't tell anybody. I said, I'm dedicating my life to this work because it just resonated so deeply in my heart. And I said, this is what I'm doing. And that eventually led to me going to Peru and just starting the process, you know?
My hope is that throughout this conversation that I can understand more, because I think when people hear ayahuasca, plant medicine, it's sort of still, I mean, I know, like Aaron Rodgers got a lot of heat for it, right?
Sure,
it's like going in the dark, but I have a buddy named Traver that went in the dark, and he's one of my best buddies. And I know the value of that. And it's like, oh, he does ayahuasca and he got like a bad rep, Aaron Rodgers got a bad rep. And it's like, the facts are, it's sort of tossed around. People can do it like recreational on a weekend at a friend's house. But similar to a good friend of mine named Nikki, who went deep into Iyengar yoga and like studied basically just in India.
Right.
And like, I learned a lot from her around that practice. I sort of I just want to learn a lot from you in this practice because I know you tapped in and went right to the source.
Yeah.
And you've been on this journey and you've integrated it.
Yeah.
So I just want to I want to hear about like that, like your experience with like this integration, the disciplines that you've cultivated over the last 8 years, and why. And that's sort of where I want to take this, if you're up for that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, in ayahuasca.
Like what is it and what is it not? You know?
So ayahuasca is a medicinal plant, visionary plant from the Amazon, and it's a combination of two different plants. The ayahuasca vine, right, which is actually called ayahuasca, and then you have a leaf that's called chacruna, which is where the DMT, the chemical that kind of opens up the visions, comes from. And the two of those put together makes the brew, which is ayahuasca, which is used for healing ceremonies. Now, I will say this, that it's like saying personal development. That can mean you're Tony Robbins type person, and that could mean somebody that just went into a Tony Robbins seminar, got a book, and then started preaching to their buddies and starting their own seminar company, right? Yeah. And there's a huge difference. So in the world of ayahuasca, you have ceremonies going on all over the world, right? And I always tell people, it's like the first level is kind of like, maybe there's somebody that was like a massage therapist or yoga teacher or has, some holistic type background. They'll go do some ceremonies. They'll decide that I want to be a shaman, if you will, right?
Again, that's not a term you loosely throw around.
No. But I was saying that they'll change their Facebook profile.
I get that. Yeah,
right. Yeah. They'll go buy some feathers and some beads.
Sure.
Right. And they'll light a candle and burn some sage and they'll play a playlist. Right.
And they're doing their best, but
it's like, that's just like most of what you'll find out there. Right. Maybe the next level up from that is that same person has musical ability, so they'll do the same thing, but they'll play music, sing, play guitar, flutes, right? And that's the thing. But it's more of like journey work. You know what I mean? It's like kind of like I'm going to hold space for a process that's going to happen. Then on the way other far side of the spectrum, you have lineages.
That's you.
That are thousands of years old. Right. That these are indigenous peoples from South America that have been working with medicinal plants for, there's records going back as far as 5,000 years, right? And it's probably more than that, right? Where they're masters of this craft. And in order to learn, right? And I shared with you a little bit earlier at your house that you go through these processes where it's not even about drinking ayahuasca. You're down in the jungle, you're doing these master plant dietas for years at a time. And I shared with you that I've been 100% celibate for 8 years. Nothing, like no kissing, no masturbation, nothing, right?
Let's just say that again, because I think a lot of people, especially men, that would just hear that, would just have kind of shake their head a little bit and be
Right.
like, well, why would you do that? And like, how could you do that?
Yeah. Well,
So how could you not masturbate
yeah.
for 8 years? How could you not even go on a date?
Yeah.
A date?
No date, nothing.
No.
Yeah. No, nothing. Right.
How and why?
Well, first of all, because I'm all in. Because if you talk to the elders around the world from different tribes, and this is something that we all know, or most people know, and if you don't, you're hearing it now, is that everybody has their own divine mission, right? Everybody has their purpose, if you will, right? Some people know what their purpose is. Other people are trying to find it out, but everybody has it, whether you realize it or not, right? If you have a big enough why. So I have my why, like my big enough why, where I said, in order for me to do that, it's the same of me driving and saying, okay, there's 2 people, I'm going to give them even more, right? So we're all of us here, right, in this room right now, you, me, all of us, we're all of service, being of service, right? So for me to be of service, in order to do this particular type of work in the way that, like I shared with you, how difficult it is, and 98% of people quit. Some people actually die in the training, right? Like legitimately, like not just like figuratively, right?
Because you're in the jungle.
You're in nature.
It's in nature.
It's like, see big wave surfers and people that surf, like sometimes people drown. It's the nature of, people, it happens, right? You're in nature. And so for me, like, how could I do it? How could I not? When you see the state of the world and people, like, I suffered so much in my life. I went down to the jungle not knowing if I was ever going to come back, because I'd reached my limit in life, right? It was like I needed to go to the jungle. It wasn't like I was curious. It wasn't like I was like, well, like this is a cool trend thing. I was like, man, like, I don't know if I want to be around anymore, like legitimately, right? Because I'd constantly been searching for things in life that didn't matter, chasing things that didn't matter, because that's the world that we grew up in, right? Is that it's all about like status and money and, the beautiful woman and this, but like the things that for a majority of the world, not for everybody, but for a majority of the world, the people that are hurting, it's because they're investing in things that don't even matter.
How do you, because you go to Peru and then you come back to Kauai or here in California, how do you go from there to here? And when you're in a place that does have distraction, where it takes a fair amount of discipline, how do you stay true to those same disciplines?
Yeah. It's just work. It's like
some people would say you're in the jungle. Well, that sounds easy. But when you come out of that, how do you continue it? Because I think there's a lot of people that have discipline challenges or discipline issues, if you can call them. And I think that's always something that people want to improve their habits and make positive health choices and things like that. Yeah.
So you start, first of all, you got to have like some kind of practice or some sort of something, right? It's not just like, whatever it is for you, right? Like, okay, so you have like people like Jocko Willink that like, no matter what, he's waking up at 4:30 in the morning, right? And he's showing his watch and he has his routine, right? So he's built discipline through that way. Yeah. Then you have people like David Goggins. It's like, he's going to run 1,000 miles before breakfast, no matter what. Yeah. And his feet look like, I don't know, man, just like gremlins or something, because they're so twisted up. And but he's all about that, right? Yeah. And these are ways to build discipline, right?
Yeah. What made you choose that versus the 4:30 wake up?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's like, I don't know, that's his thing, right? So it's not, I mean, maybe I would do that, right? If that was like my thing. But for me, I felt like I was the most undisciplined person on the planet. So when I came across this lineage and the Shipibo lineage, and it was all about, they were like, okay, you do this dieta, and you're gonna go heal, and you're gonna do months and months and months of celibacy. You're gonna do no salt, no sugar, no oil, no red meat, no pork. You're going to do, all of these things. And because the initial ceremonies I went through were so impactful, and you just know, right? Yeah. So I was like, for me, Like there's a part of me that almost used to wish that like I was in the military. I was the only person, like my father was a Vietnam vet, and my grandfather was World War II, then World War I, going all the way back, like back and back, right? And I think, man, I just want to go through like a boot camp, just because I feel like I'm so undisciplined. So when I saw the realness of this particular path that I'm on now, and I was like, man, I need this, and I know it's gonna suck. I know it's going to be hard,
yeah.
But also, and it's part of like, we all have our own divine mission, right? This is just where I was being led, right? And it was something that like, there's so many levels we can go into in depths on this, and the conversation but I would say that like, you just got to listen, right? And I was being told like in the ceremonies, like you're hiding, you need to go to Peru, you need to go to the jungle, right? And there was things that I needed to face inside myself. Now, someone else could face that in a dark retreat. We talked about a friend of yours, right? That is doing through darkness, right? For me, it was ayahuasca. Somebody else, it might be, through meditation, right? Somebody else might go fasting and prayer, right? It's like, my first teacher would say this. He'd say, Gabriel, the goal is to reach the island. It doesn't matter how you get there. You get there through Tai Chi, Bagua, Xing Yi, yoga, being a parent. You can get all the way to the island by just being a parent. And I'm sure you're finding out as the father of 3 young ones, like how much spiritual growth, never mind the books and the seminars and everything else, just what you're doing with your children.
Absolutely.
Like is probably like runs circles around all the other stuff, right? So the goal is to reach the island. It doesn't matter how you get. So for me, when people come to me and they're like, Gabriel, I need help, right? And maybe they think that, ayahuasca and whatnot. Yeah, maybe it is ayahuasca, right? But I also have the Tony Robbins background. I also have, as I shared with you, a teacher that was a lineage holder from different lineages in China that I learned a lot from, right? There's I have my tool belt, right? And I think that it would be very kind of ego driven if I was like, I know what's best for you, right? At the end of the day, I always tell people, I don't know if this is right for you, but I know that you know the answers in your heart. My only job in any of this is to get you out of your head, get you to connect in your heart, and just tell me what that answer is. And whatever your heart says, right? Just have the courage to follow that. Maybe your heart says you need to move to India and go be in an ashram for a month. And you're like, this is crazy. I just want to do ayahuasca in the jungle and it's trendy or whatever reason, or I have friends that are doing that. And your heart's like, no, you need to go to India. Trust it, right? You don't know why. Maybe there's somebody, maybe it's nothing to do with anything to do with ashrams or anything in India. Maybe there's just one person that you're going to bump into in a cafe in India, and they'll be like, just like me going to do that talk at Hofstra University, right? And meeting Steven, which led to meeting you. Maybe it's just that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not some kind of grand spiritual awakening. Maybe there's just somebody that needs to be in your life for down the road that you'll be grateful for.
Throughout this journey, what do you think would be some of the best advice? Because you've been surrounded by like master teachers.
Yeah.
And what is some of the best advice you've gotten so far?
Well, the one I just shared is the big one,
Absolutely.
right? Is really drop into your heart. One I got from the plants, right? When I closed my first called a master plant dieta, right? So we have our gurus and our masters in our world, right? The plants have theirs, and they're called master plants. And these are plants that are elevated plants, elevated levels of consciousness. And when I closed my first dieta, there's 3 words that the plants gave me, right? I was just going through it, right? And I had a huge purge where I just all this stuff I'd been holding on to, I just purged it, puked in a bucket, and this huge opening and release happened because I let go of so much that I was holding on to, and it created more space for light and understanding. And I got 3 words: discipline, suffering, wisdom. And the understanding that I got with those words was information is free. You can Google ChatGPT, anything, right? I could go get a master's in motherhood, right? I could read every book ever written on being a mother. I could write theses on it and whatnot, right? And I could be an expert on motherhood. Gabe, as a man, right? But I couldn't hold a candle to Daisy or any other mother that's raised children, no matter how many books I read, right? Because true wisdom is going to come through that suffering of what does it mean to wake up in the middle of the night when you're so sleep deprived and your kids are crying and you have to like do that gut check moment of like, do I go take care of my kid or do I just take care of myself right now because I'm tired, right? So real wisdom is going to come through suffering. But what's the purpose of discipline? So no matter what path you choose, the foundation of any path is going to be discipline. Because if you don't have discipline, as soon as you start to hit the suffering, you'll quit, right? So you need that foundation, right? You need that where you just kind of like, it's those daily habits. You're like, okay, like for me, I wake up in the morning and I do Qigong, right? I'm not running 100 miles, right? I'm not, just doing, everybody has their own thing. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to do Qigong. I'm going to smoke my tobacco pipe, right? My sacred pipe. I'm going to sing to my plants. These are practices. Now, sometimes I don't make it, right? Because I'm traveling or there's things that happen in life, but that is my practice and my discipline, right? And it helps my body, helps my mind, my spirit, right? It gives me strength so that when I start to step into the sufferings of things, I'm like, oh my God, I was like, oh, I got that. It's a muscle, right? We got that muscle, right? And you have it. You have your practices. We all have our practices, or at least we should have. But it's that discipline. If you just remember those three words: discipline, suffering, right? Like you don't avoid it. Some people say, "Oh, it's not about suffering." No, bullshit, right? Life is suffering, right? People are gonna die. Accidents are gonna happen. Like, never mind trying to avoid suffering, right? There's that. I think it's a Buddhist saying. It says, "No mud, no lotus." The lotus flower doesn't grow out of marble. It grows out of mud, right? Mud is the suffering, right? So you have this. The plants give you a mud, right? That is like a suffering. That is like you want to quit. I don't know anybody that really does the work that I do that doesn't consider quitting all the time, because it's suffering, but through that suffering is this beautiful opening that really just like you're earning it.
Take me there. Take me and the listener there.
Yeah.
You're in the jungle. Most people will never go to the jungle and do what you've done.
Okay.
So you're in the jungle, and like, can you take us there? Just like, what was a day that you can remember of like suffering?
Okay.
Just let's go there.
I mean, first of all, it's every day. But okay, so I'm in my hut. So there's a healing camp, if you will, right, center. Yeah. And then they have they're called tambos, which are a little hut that's like back in the jungle, away from the main camp, right? So you have this little, and in order for me to get from the kitchen or the bathroom in the ceremonial house, I have to go down a little path and go to my hut.
You have to like bush whack.
No, they've somebody's come with a machete and already done that. Okay. Right. So I don't have to I have a path and it's built already. There's a bed and everything in there. And
shoes, barefoot.
I'm just wearing slippers or like sandals. You guys call them, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I,
you guys call them here on this, here in America,
mainlanders
in the mainland.
Right. And, so anyways, I'd go to walk to my tambo and I'd get close to the tambo, and it inevitably had been raining, and there's literally pools of water that mosquitoes would be breeding in and whatnot. And there would just be a swarm of not normal mosquitoes, like special forces trained, give them every steroid and vitamin, mosquitoes, make them just, I mean, like they're like people almost, like with plans, like they don't just kind of go away. They stick to you, just biting you left and right. And I'd open my screen, which is supposed to keep the mosquitoes out, and 10 or 20 would come in.
Yeah.
So I would be tired. I would be just wanting to rest in my hammock, and I'd have to, go around and try to kill all these mosquitoes. And then, for example, before bed, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And if I didn't get them, then they would just be swarming around. And even though I had a net covering my bed, they'd be come up real close and just be in my ear. And then as soon as I got out, they'd be biting me again.
In your ear?
Well, just, this kind of...
While you're trying to sleep.
Yeah. They could be coming close and just bothering you. And then I'd go, oh man, I had a bunch of soup for dinner or whatever, or drank a bunch of water, and I got to use the bathroom. I got to hike back through that into the camp to use the bathroom.
How far?
I mean, maybe like 75 yards, 100 yards max,
Is it dark now or no?
Yeah. You have a flashlight and whatnot, right? Flashlight's
in the
dark.
jungle.
In jungle. Yeah, flashlight. I'm just looking for snakes and making sure there's nothing that's going to bite me, right? And then I'd get to the bathroom, and there's like a million mosquitoes in the bathroom. You sit on the toilet, you pull your pants down, they're biting your butt, they're biting your junk, everything. And you're just like, I just want to use the bathroom, and you're just getting eaten by mosquitoes.
Yeah.
And then you start having that conversation about a week or two into it, like, how much can I hold this? Because I don't want to go get eaten by mosquitoes, especially around my, my private parts.
Yeah.
I just want to use the bathroom like a civilized human being. And that's like just a very tip of an iceberg.
Yeah.
And then you're doing ayahuasca ceremonies 5 nights a week, and you're puking and you're crying and you're cleaning stuff out and going through your own deep processes. And then, then the jungle's kicking your ass at the same time. And I went back to use the bathroom one of these times. I went back into my tombo. I was only gone for maybe about an hour, right? Went back into my tombo, and I walk in my room, and I hear this commotion. And a snake had somehow gotten into my room. It was in my clothes, and I startled it. And it was about 6 foot long, and it crawls up the side. I jump back, like, what is, I feel like I'm protected from all snakes because I have my doors closed, but apparently, it had a secret snake door. So then guess what I get to do that night, for the next week? I get to wonder, did a snake sneak in my room and is it under my bed right now? Like, when you're a little kid, like, is there a monster under my bed? Because snakes were just getting in, at least one did. So if one did, others can. So then I just get to deal with that of like being like, well, I can't quit.
Yeah.
Maybe a snake's getting in tonight.
Yeah. Sweet dreams, Gabe.
Yeah. Sweet dreams.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So it was just, this is now this is a little bit more extreme than the average person that might go down there. They're going to stay in the camp. It'll be a little bit more, kind of together. Like, so in the tradition I work at, it's kind of like, how hard do you want to make it? Type of deal, right? Like I was eating a really strict diet, where I dropped down. I'm 6'2". I dropped down to 154 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. And I shared with you, I hadn't been that light since I was 14.
Yeah.
Right.
That's like,
so it's like
Brad Pitt Fight Club weight.
Yeah, but the Walmart version, where no one's gonna be paying me to do underwear model. I just look like not so great,
man.
But that's how you decide. It's like, oh, do you want to make it harder on yourself? Do you want more discipline? So people come up and they'll do a certain amount, but it's like, as you get stronger, it's like, how far do you want to run? How many burpees do you want to do?
Sure.
Right. So there's like the medicine version of that. Yeah. So I've been doing this for 8 years, hardcore. So, when I first started, I would never do stuff like that. But I'm getting strong. But the stronger that I've gotten, and the more discipline I've done, and the more like I've built up my medicine, it allows me to help more people, because it's like, oh, somebody's really suffering. Guess what? I put myself through suffering too. And I can help pull that person out because I've been in there.
So how do you help people? They go to Kauai and they go through a like a one-on-one experience with you?
No,
or like
no,
groups, or like, what is
I
that
just
like?
I just take people down to the jungle, because it's in the jungle. That's something that you can do.
To Peru.
Yeah, to Peru.
So you take people to Peru.
Yeah,
They don't go to Kauai and
yeah.
do the work
I
with
do other things in Kauai that are not non-medicinal. So I do one-on-one coaching. I do group coaching, things of more that nature, just because of the legalities of the medicine. So in Peru, it's someone says, hey, I really want to do this type of work and whatnot, and then what I do is I bring them down to see my teachers, right? And I bring groups down. Sometimes I've brought in just one person down, but really about once a year, kind of moving forward, I'm bringing like a group down, right?
Yeah.
And then I travel and I go see my teachers down in Peru and elsewhere. But I would say that, like, because of my diverse background, right? So, doing coaching work or mentoring, right? One-on-one or with groups. And my whole goal and focus is I just want to help people. Maybe that vehicle is plant medicine. Maybe that vehicle is things you would find in the NLP and Tony Robbins world and coaching, right?
Sure.
Just conversational, right? Maybe like Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist monk, he talked about deep compassionate listening. Maybe like I have sometimes people call me in the middle of the night and they're just like at wit's end and they just need someone to listen to them. So guess what I'm doing at like 2 a.m.? I'm just on the phone. I'm not giving advice. I'm not giving them a plan. I'm just being that person that they can talk to because they don't have anybody. So that's the medicine. It's just listening, right? Or just giving someone a hug, right? You'd be surprised. Like, there's certain things that we take for granted. Like, oh yeah, everyone gets hugs and man, I remember hugging this woman. And it was at a retreat, right? And it was not a retreat that I did what we're talking about, but just like a different type of retreat. And I was holding her, and she was probably 20 or 30 years older than me, and but it was very apparent to me that she probably doesn't get any type of affectionate touch from a healthy touch from a man. And I just held her, and she cried. That's all I did. I literally, and then for that whole day, I just held women and they would cry. And that was the medicine.
They felt the safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, and for me, it was beautiful as a man to provide that.
Yeah.
To have that level of trust.
If somebody's, somebody hears about ayahuasca and they want to do this, like, obviously they could chat with you about the reasons and stuff, but like, even before that step, if they're like, hey, I've been hearing about it, I hear that it can be like, 10 years of therapy in like
one night,
right? Mm-hmm. It's like, what do you want that person to know?
So do your research.
Yeah.
Right. Research, watch some documentaries, understand what it is and what it isn't.
What documentary or what would you suggest?
Oh man, there's one called Vine of the Soul.
Vine of the Soul, but
there's so many. If you just type in ayahuasca documentary, just look through YouTube and you'll find, and just do your own, but just watch, right? Watch. And then really do your process, do your research, but also ask around. But ultimately at the end of the day, whether it's prayer, meditation, sitting under a tree, just really like let yourself be guided. And usually if people are coming to ayahuasca, they're feeling called to it, right? It's something that like there's something deep down and says, you know what, I need to do this, right? And trust that. But also, there's a lot of people that do really great work out there, but there's some people that don't do really good work out there, right? And not necessarily that they're bad people, but there's just the people that are really trained in this world. It's a lot of suffering and it's a lot of sacrifice, and not everybody wants to do that. Mm-hmm. Most people just want to do the quick version, right? They just want to kind of go through the seminar, the weekend course, get the certification, and throw up shop. They don't want to spend decades of training, right? With no real return on that, right? And just being like, maybe I'll do this someday, right? So do the research. And then I have people that reach out to me all the time, and sometimes they're in Europe and they're just like, I really want to do it. And I know they're not going to fly to me or anything else like that, but I'll just point them in the right direction. I know people all around the world that do this in a beautiful way, that are real. And I'll just tell people, even regardless if it has nothing to do with me, right? I know people from other countries and other traditions. Like I have friends in Colombia that are, kind of shamans in the mountains of Colombia and the Sierra Nevadas, right? I know good groups in Brazil. So ultimately, trust your heart, just like anything, right? Like how you're going to find a great coach or somebody. What you do is do your research, trust your heart, and don't be in a rush to do it, but you'll have the conversations you need to have. And there's always people like myself out there that are willing to, like I said, if somebody emails me and says, hey, I'm in X part of the world, where should I go or whatnot? I'm happy to guide them and tell them, and help them on their way, even if it has nothing to do with me.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I really wanted to make this show about this pod really much more about like the growth that we get through pain versus just performance. Right. Because the obvious was like performance coach. I'm just going to talk about performance.
Yeah.
And I felt like there's so many other shows that talk about performance. So I thought, cool, let's talk about like the growth we get through pain. Because I had a lot of pain in my knee and the surgery.
Yeah.
So I've heard a little bit of that from you and kind of how you've learned through that. And then there's so many also shows about productivity, how to be more productive. And I'm like, I'm more into like presence, right? How do you get more present? And I think a lot of this work has allowed you to be more present to life, to you, the disciplines kind of bring you back. I was curious about, if you, Gabe, now 2025, leaned over to that 2005 Gabe that was working, with Tony and doing the talks, and you whispered, this Gabe, whispered into that Gabe's ear, what would you have said? Or what would you say?
I would say it might not seem like it at the time. You might feel like you're incredibly lost and you're kind of going in all these different directions, but everything is purposeful. Every experience that you're having, even if it's going to work for a restaurant or some other random job or whatever it is, it's all preparing you for your calling down the road. So just don't quit. No matter what turn you take, you get off path and whatnot, it's all purposeful. And the one prayer to hold with you during this time is you can cry, you can fall on your knees, you can suck your thumb, feel sorry for yourself. Just don't quit. Just don't quit. Keep taking steps forward, even if it's just like you're wiggling. You're wiggling on the ground. You're not even taking a step, right? You're just like, right?
my son.
Yeah.
Who's just 10 months.
just wiggle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just don't quit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay to fall down. It's okay to fall down. It's okay to just like, have your moments, right? And maybe your moment lasts a week or a month, but just don't quit.
Yeah.
Right. And trust that even the things that you might feel are wrong at the time, you might say like, oh my God, like I did this, I made this wrong, this mistake. It's not a mistake. You needed that because in the ayahuasca world, sometimes, in the ceremony, right, you're drinking, you're going into this like opening up in this visionary world. Sometimes the medicine teaches you through the light and the beauty and the potential and just bringing all that out, right? And it's like, oh my God, this is so amazing, right? I'm remembering who I really am. I'm remembering, connecting to my heart and to God and the universe and everything and to nature, right? And other times the medicine's teaching you through the dark and it's taking you through your traumas and your sadnesses and the things that maybe you weren't treated so well when you were younger, right? Maybe you're bullied or abused, right? Or maybe you were the one that treated someone and you have to face that wow, like you actually caused pain in someone else's life and you have to deal with that shame and you have to deal with that guilt. Right? But all of that's medicine for you. Sometimes you learn much more through the uncomfortable suffering. Like I don't like this about myself. I can't believe I even did that. Like what a lot of people do in today's age is they just want to like push it away and be like, I'll just pretend it, it didn't happen, or they just want to do affirmation themselves into like, let's just ignore all this and it's only light and love. It's only light and love. It's only light and love. Right. But eventually that what you're pushing away, it's going to come back rearing its head because you got to look at all of it and you got to deal with it and just be like, it's okay. Like everybody makes mistakes. Everybody falls down. Nobody's perfect. Right. You have some friends, some high profile friends that have gone through extreme public pain and suffering and making mistakes. It's okay. That's all right. Everybody goes through it. If you're a public person, you're going to go through it publicly. If you're a private person, you're going to go through it privately.
Point. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like everybody goes through it. Mm-hmm. And
everybody goes through it.
Everybody
Most
goes through
people go through it.
Yeah, if you're lucky, you go through it.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is how you learn, right? And that person that we were discussing went through it and that's his medicine. Right? Like he just got upgraded. Because you go through that, like I go down the jungle. The only difference is I tell people, look, life is a ceremony. You're in a ceremony and everything's coming up that it's just like a concentrate for life, but we're always in ceremony. We're always, right? Here's the difference. I go to meet the suffering. I don't just wait for something to happen in my life where I have no choice. But because I've consciously over the last 8 years said, you know what, I'm going to go choose to do this, everything else has gotten better and easier. Yeah. It's like I'm going to go work out. I'm going to do the stuff like, how you do in your dojo. And then it's like you meet physical challenges in life and other people would be like, oh my God, this is so hard. And you're like, this is breakfast for me. What are you talking about? This is hard. Yeah. Right. Because you went out to meet it. Yeah. So that's what I'm doing in my work. And it's just not, this is just my way, but everybody does in their own way. Yeah. But because life's going to give you the suffering, whether you want it or not. So you might as well like get as much off your plate as you can. So that way, when the things, everyone you love is going to, at some point, going to transition. It doesn't matter how good of a person you are, right? There's going to be, just either naturally or through an accident or something, right? Yeah. There's going to be things that you think are for sure in your life. This is going to be a constant, and one day it's not going to be there, right? So if you go and you start doing the work now, when those moments come, like, oh, I've been here before, and you can be solid and you can help others versus now life just hits you and you're out of commission for 3 years because life hits you in a way that, that you weren't prepared for.
It was so well said. Last question.
Yeah.
Last question is this. You just said, when you're going through this process too, you start to get clear of like who I am. And, it's been 20 years of friendship and you've gone through now 8 years of this training and you're here and you're still on this journey. I can tell that you're going to continue, right? Going to the jungle and keep deepening here. How would you fill in the blank where, if I said who are you today? Like, how would you define yourself today? Like, who are you today? Yeah.
What kind of question is that, man? Yeah. No, you're asking me these deep existential questions of like,
yeah. Like, who are you today in the sense that we start the show off and I simply am like, hey, this is who you are to me. Right. Okay. But you've gone through some real suffering,
sure,
and some discipline and your own journey, and I haven't seen like 99% of it, right? I haven't seen any of it. I've heard maybe 1% of it.
Yeah, and you've watched a few Instagram videos.
I watched a few Instagram, and you sent me some video.
You got an idea,
but I'm curious as to like what's that part of you that like people don't really know about? Even your loved ones, myself, maybe included, that you sort of. You want people to know. Maybe you want me to know right now, and how would you define yourself? That's what I mean by that.
I'm just a guy that's doing my best to be of service in the best way that I know how. And I'm listening to higher guidance, right? I'm allowing myself to, rather than being like, what do I want? Like what do I want? What does Gabriel want? It's like not my will, but like thy will be done. right? I'm just trying to get out of the way. And I'm just saying like, look, it's undeniable how much pain and suffering and what people are going through in the world, right? It's undeniable, right? We see it everywhere, and there's riots right now in LA, right? Like I don't even watch the news, but I found out when I got here. I had no idea, right? So everybody has a song, everybody. And it doesn't matter how beautifully I sing my song. There's certain people that are not meant to hear my song. They're meant to hear your song or someone who's listening to their song. So unless that person that's listening to this right now can get through their fears and sing their song, there's somebody out there that can't hear it, right? Because it doesn't matter how loudly I sing mine. It's just like, it'll just go over their head. But they're meant to hear that person's song or your song. So I'm just somebody like everyone else. I'm just doing my best. And I have, I have two sisters. I have a mother and a father that tell me, that bring me down to earth if I'm ever thinking that like, oh, look at me, look what I've done. It's like, but did you clean your bathroom? It's like, yeah, we understand you went down to the jungle and you almost died twice and these things, but your toilet's dirty, right? So I'm just doing the best I can. And for me, my path is a path of service. And my way and my song is literally a song. Like in our ceremonies, I sing to people. Like we sing to people. Sometimes I have a conversation. I also was a massage therapist, body worker, Reiki when I was younger. So I can express my help through my hands, right? I have different tools, but I'm no different than anyone else, right? I'm not better or worse, right? And like, I have my warts too. I have things that I'm not good at. There's times where I'm, I could communicate in a more loving way, or sometimes when I'm lazy, or I just, I got back from the jungle and I was like, I want to eat a pizza. I'm going to eat a healthy pizza. I'm just going to have one pizza. And it was so delicious. Yeah. 3 weeks later of eating pizza almost every other day, I'm like calling up my teacher saying, I need to come back to clean all this out of me. Yeah. Right. So I'm just someone that was in pain, and I'm not in pain anymore. And it was so painful for me that I just want to help others. And I'll just do my best. Maybe I do, maybe I don't, but I'm going to try.
With all this suffering talk, I just want to close out with your song. What was your karaoke song that we talked about earlier?
I want to know what love is.
Yes, please.
I want you to show me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for singing your karaoke song. Gabriel, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for saying yes.
Yeah.
And
I'm so glad you could be my first.
Man.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, brother.
Yeah.
Close up.
All right.
Give me a hug.
Yeah.
Man. Boy. I want to know what love is. That's so good.
If anything goes viral, I want it to be that.